The router wasn't really broken. At 1 in the morning, sitting in my home office with a screwdriver and a half-empty beer, I was just buying myself time to think. The Wi-Fi worked fine, had been working fine for months. But sometimes a man needs an excuse to be awake when his wife thinks he's asleep. That's when I saw her. Ayla crept down the hallway like she was defusing a bomb, each step calculated to avoid the creaky floorboard by the bathroom. She had something draped over her shoulder. Silk, expensive looking. A necktie that definitely wasn't mine. Nothing says marital bliss like designer neckwear at 2 a.m., I muttered to myself, watching through the crack in my office door. My name is Hale Trenwick, and up until 3 months ago, I thought I had a pretty decent life. 42 years old, decent job in tech support for a Portland startup, nice house in the suburbs where everyone pretends to mind their own business while secretly cataloging every delivery truck and late-night visitor. The American dream, right down to the mortgage that makes you question every coffee purchase. Then the layoffs hit. Restructuring, they called it. Right-sizing the human capital expenditure. Corporate speak for Hale, clean out your desk. Ayla took the news better than I expected. This could be good for us, she said, already scrolling through her phone while I nursed a beer and my wounded pride. You can freelance, maybe start that consulting thing you always talked about. I just got promoted. My salary can carry us for a while. Her promotion. Senior account director at Morrison & Associates, the biggest advertising agency in southern Maine. Longer hours, better money, and apparently a whole new wardrobe of power suits that cost more than my monthly unemployment check. And now, watching her tiptoe through our house with another man's tie, I was starting to understand exactly what that promotion had cost us. The next morning came too soon and not soon enough. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, pretending to work on a freelance project while Ayla rushed through her morning routine. She moved like someone late for something important, which was strange because she'd been getting up earlier and earlier lately. Coffee's fresh, I said without looking up from my screen. Thanks, but I'll grab something on the way. She kissed the top of my head, a gesture that once felt loving but now seemed mechanical. Don't wait up tonight. We're pitching the Henderson account and Tyler wants the whole team to stay late. Tyler, her boss. I'd met him exactly once, at the company Christmas party 6 months ago. Tall, expensive suit, handshake that lasted just a beat too long while his eyes stayed fixed on Ayla, the kind of guy who probably had his name embroidered on his shirt cuffs. Tyler works you pretty hard, I said, still not looking up. It's what I signed up for. This job is important, Hale, for both of us. After she left, I sat in the silence of our house and tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. Marriages go through rough patches. People work late. Ties can belong to anyone. But paranoia, I've learned, is just pattern recognition with anxiety attached. That afternoon, I drove to Best Buy and spent $200 on a home security system. Nothing fancy, just 4 wireless cameras and a basic monitoring setup. When the kid at the register asked if I needed installation help, I laughed. Buddy, I've been installing tech since you were learning to tie your shoes. The cameras went up that evening. One in the living room, positioned to catch the front door and hallway. One in the kitchen, angled toward the back entrance. One in the garage, because that's where people think they have privacy. And one in the guest bedroom, because call it a hunch. I told myself I was being responsible. Home security is important these days. Break-ins happen. Insurance companies give discounts for monitored systems. All perfectly reasonable lies, I told myself while setting up motion-activated recording and cloud backup storage. 3 days later, I had my answer. The footage was crystal clear, even in low light. Ayla and Tyler in our kitchen at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, her hands tangled in his hair while he pressed her against the counter where I eat my cereal every morning. The timestamp showed I'd been asleep upstairs, probably dreaming about job interviews and mortgage payments while my wife entertained her boss 20 feet below. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was watching her lead him to the guest bedroom, the room we decorated together when we bought the house, thinking maybe someday we'd have kids or parents who needed a place to stay. I sat in my office, watching my marriage dissolve in high definition, and felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. Not rage. That would come later. This was something more useful. This was clarity. I copied the files to 3 different cloud storage accounts, then made physical backups on 2 separate hard drives. I screenshot the timestamps, cross-referenced them with Ayla's late work nights, and built a timeline that would make a forensic accountant proud. Then I called Wilder Sornell, my best friend since college and the best divorce lawyer in Cumberland County. Hale, it's 7 in the morning. Someone better be in jail or on fire. Neither. Yet. I need to see you today? And Wilder? Bring your calculator. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Wilder's office occupied the third floor of a converted Victorian house in Portland's Old Port district. The building had character, original hardwood floors, tall windows, the kind of architectural details that said established and expensive without being flashy about it. Perfect for a lawyer who specialized in making rich people's problems disappear quietly. I'd known Wilder since freshman year at the University of Maine, back when he was just Bill Sornell from Bangor, who happened to be scary good at arguing. Somewhere along the way, he'd picked up the nickname Wilder, something about his ability to find loopholes in seemingly airtight contracts. And it stuck. Now he wore $1,000 suits and had a secretary who could freeze your soul with a look. Jesus, Hale, you look terrible. He poured coffee from an expensive-looking machine while I sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than my car. When's the last time you slept? Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. Hard to keep track when you're documenting your wife's extracurricular activities. I handed him a flash drive containing everything I'd compiled over the past week. Video files, timestamps, financial records I'd pulled from our joint accounts showing charges at restaurants and hotels I'd never been to. Wilder plugged the drive into his laptop and started scrolling. His expression didn't change. Lawyers are good at keeping their faces neutral. But I caught the slight tightening around his eyes. How long has this been going on? Based on the credit card records? At least 3 months. The video evidence goes back a week. And you installed these cameras yourself? On your own property? Every single one. I own the house, I pay the mortgage, I installed a security system. Nothing illegal about protecting my investment. Wilder leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Maine is a no-fault divorce state, so the adultery doesn't matter legally. But it sure as hell matters when we're talking about asset division and spousal support. I'm not interested in dragging this through court for 2 years while lawyers get rich. Then what are you interested in? I stood up and walked to his window, looking down at the tourists wandering through the cobblestone streets with their cameras and guidebooks, completely oblivious to the dramas playing out in the offices above them. I want her to understand what she's thrown away. I want her boss to face consequences for screwing around with a married employee, and I want to do it all without breaking any laws or giving them ammunition to use against me. That's a tall order. That's why I'm paying you $300 an hour. Wilder was quiet for a long moment, studying the files on his screen. There's something else you should know. I did some digging on Tyler Rohn after you called. He's married. Wife's name is Chloe. They have 2 kids, live in a big house in Cape Elizabeth. Does she know? Hard to say, but she might be interested in seeing these files. The idea hit me like lightning. Can you reach out to her, unofficially? I can have someone make contact. Feel her out, see if she's interested in comparing notes. Do it. That evening, I sat in my kitchen eating leftover pizza and waiting for Ayla to come home from another late meeting. The house felt different now that I knew what had been happening in it. Every surface seemed contaminated. Every room held the potential for betrayal. She walked in at 10:30, looking perfectly composed except for the slight smudge of lipstick at the corner of her mouth. How was your day? She asked, the same question she'd asked every night for 8 years of marriage. Productive. Had a meeting with Wilder about some consulting contracts. That's great, honey. I'm glad you're staying busy. She kissed my forehead, that same mechanical gesture, and headed upstairs. 5 minutes later, I heard the shower running, washing away the evidence of whatever she'd been doing before coming home to me. My phone buzzed with a text from Wilder. Contact made. She wants to meet. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Coffee by Design on Exchange Street. I typed back, what's she like? Smart, angry, and very, very interested in what you have to show her. The next afternoon, I walked into the coffee shop 15 minutes early and claimed a table in the back corner where I could see the entrance. Coffee by Design was the kind of place that attracted freelancers and college students, lots of laptops, conversations conducted in whispers, the perfect cover for a clandestine meeting. Chloe Rohn walked in at exactly 2 o'clock, and I knew immediately why Tyler had married her. She was stunning in an understated way. Blonde hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, minimal makeup, wearing jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than most people's rent. But it was her eyes that caught my attention. They were the eyes of someone who'd been hurt and was ready to hurt back. She spotted me easily. Wilder had described me as the guy who looks like he hasn't slept in a week, and walked over with the confidence of someone accustomed to getting what she wanted. Hale Trenwick? That's me. Thanks for coming. She sat down across from me, declining my offer to buy her coffee. Your lawyer was very mysterious on the phone, said you had information about my husband that I might find interesting. I pulled out my laptop and angled it so she could see the screen. How much do you know about Tyler's relationship with his employees? I know he works late a lot. I know he's been distracted lately. And I know he's been lying to me about something, but I haven't been able to figure out what. I opened the first video file. Tyler and Ayla in my kitchen, her hands in his hair, his mouth on her neck. Chloe watched without expression for about 30 seconds, then held up a hand. That's enough. When was this taken? Last Tuesday. There are more. I'm sure there are. She was quiet for a moment, staring at the laptop screen. How long have you known? About a week. You? I suspected for months. Little things. Coming home with perfume that wasn't mine, phone calls he'd taken in another room, credit card charges that didn't make sense. She looked up at me. Your wife is Ayla Morrison, right? I've heard Tyler mention her name. Ayla Trenwick. She kept her maiden name professionally. Smart woman. Makes it easier to disappear when things go wrong. There was something in her tone that made me pay attention. Sounds like you've given this some thought. I've been giving this a lot of thought. Tyler thinks he's clever, but he's actually quite predictable. The question is, what do you want to do about it? I want them to face consequences. Real ones, not just a slap on the wrist and a promise to do better. Chloe smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. Mr. Trenwick, I think we're going to get along very well. Over the next hour, Chloe and I laid out everything we knew about our respective spouses' affair. She had financial records, phone logs, and a memory for details that would have impressed a detective. I had video evidence and a growing understanding of just how long this had been going on. Tyler's been sloppy, she said, scrolling through photos on her phone. Look at this. A receipt from Morton's Steakhouse last month. $240 for dinner. He told me he was at a client meeting, but the receipt shows 2 entrees, 2 desserts, and a bottle of wine that costs more than most people make in a day. Ayla came home that night and told me she'd grabbed a sandwich at her desk. They're not very good at this, are they? We spent another 30 minutes comparing notes, building a timeline that stretched back nearly 4 months. The affair had started small, drinks after work, the occasional lunch meeting that ran long, but it had escalated quickly, especially after Tyler's wife and kids had gone to visit her parents in Boston for 2 weeks in March. That's when it got serious, Chloe said. He was out every night, supposedly networking with potential clients. I found hotel receipts in his jacket pocket. The Eastland Park? Among others. Your husband has expensive tastes. He's not my husband, and apparently so does your wife. We were quiet for a moment, 2 people who'd been betrayed by the people they'd trusted most, sitting in a coffee shop and planning revenge like it was a business meeting. What's your end game here? I asked. I want Tyler to lose everything that matters to him. His job, his reputation, his comfortable life where he gets to have his cake and eat it too. I want him to understand what it feels like to have someone you love lie to your face every single day. And Ayla? Your wife is collateral damage, but if she's willing to sleep with a married man and lie to her husband about it, she deserves whatever happens to her. I couldn't argue with that logic. There's something else, Chloe continued. Tyler's not just cheating on me. He's been embezzling money from his company's client accounts. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger an audit, but it adds up. How do you know? Because I'm not just a trophy wife, Mr. Trenwick. I have an MBA from Wharton, and I used to work in forensic accounting before we got married. I've been tracking his finances for months. The pieces were falling into place. Tyler wasn't just an unfaithful husband. He was a criminal. And Ayla wasn't just an adulteress. She was an accessory, whether she knew it or not. What do you need from me? I asked. Keep documenting everything. The more evidence we have, the stronger our position becomes. And there's going to be a company party next month. Morrison and Associates' annual client appreciation event. Big fancy affair at the Portland Harbor Hotel. Tyler will be there. Ayla will be there. And so will every important person in their professional lives. You want to make it public. I want to make it spectacular. That evening, I went home and continued my surveillance routine. The cameras were capturing everything now, not just the obvious meetings, but the small moments that revealed the depth of their deception. Ayla checking her phone constantly, smiling at messages I wasn't supposed to see. Tyler calling the house when he thought I wouldn't be home, hanging up when I answered. They were getting careless, which was exactly what I was hoping for. Around 9 o'clock, my phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. Is this Hale Trenwick? Depends who's asking. My name is Detective Ray Morrison. I'm Ayla's cousin. She asked me to give you a call. I felt my stomach drop. What can I do for you, Detective? Ayla's concerned about some equipment you've installed in your house. Security cameras, that sort of thing. She's worried you might be recording her without consent. It's my house, Detective. I'm allowed to install security equipment on my own property. Of course you are, but Maine has some pretty strict laws about recording people without their knowledge, especially in private areas like bedrooms. Good thing all my cameras are in common areas then, living room, kitchen, garage, places where a reasonable person wouldn't expect privacy. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Ayla mentioned you might have cameras in other locations. Ayla is mistaken, but if she's concerned about being recorded, maybe she should consider not bringing strangers into our house when I'm not home. Another pause, longer this time. Mr. Trenwick, I hope you're not planning to do anything that might escalate this situation. Detective Morrison, I'm a law-abiding citizen who installed a security system in his own home. If that makes your cousin uncomfortable, maybe she should examine her own behavior instead of trying to intimidate me through family connections. I hung up before he could respond. 10 minutes later, Wilder called. Interesting conversation with Ayla's cousin? You heard about that already? Small legal community. Ray Morrison's a decent cop, but he's got a blind spot when it comes to family. What did you tell him? The truth? That I haven't broken any laws and I don't plan to. Good, because we're about to escalate things and we need to make sure we stay on the right side of the line. What do you mean? Chloe Roan called me an hour ago. She's ready to move forward with her plan, and she wants to know if you're still interested in being her partner. I looked around my house, the place where I'd thought I was building a life with someone I loved, now revealed as just another stage for someone else's lies. Tell her I'm in. The Portland Harbor Hotel sits on the waterfront like a monument to tasteful wealth, all brick and brass and windows that reflect the harbor lights. It's the kind of place where politicians hold fundraisers and CEOs celebrate mergers, where the cheapest thing on the menu costs more than most people spend on groceries in a week. Morrison and Associates had rented the entire top floor for their annual client appreciation event, a gathering of advertising executives, potential clients, and various hangers-on who made their living by association with money and influence. Ayla had been talking about it for weeks. What she'd wear, who would be there, how important it was for her career. She had no idea it was going to be the last professional event she'd ever attend. I spent the morning of the party in my office, making final preparations. The past 3 weeks had been a masterclass in surveillance and documentation. Every meeting between Ayla and Tyler, every lie she told me about working late, every credit card charge and hotel receipt, all of it carefully cataloged and backed up to multiple secure servers. Chloe had been equally thorough on her end. She'd discovered that Tyler had been skimming money from client accounts for over a year, using the funds to pay for his affair with Ayla and probably others before her. She'd also found evidence that he'd been padding his expense reports and billing personal charges to company credit cards. He's not just unfaithful, she told me during one of our planning sessions. He's stupid, the kind of stupid that leaves a paper trail a first-year accounting student could follow. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Morrison and Associates used a standard AV setup for their presentations, projectors, screens, wireless connections that could be accessed by anyone with the right equipment and knowledge. As a tech consultant, I had both. At 6 p.m., I drove to the Harbor Hotel and parked across the street where I had a clear view of the entrance. Ayla had left the house 2 hours earlier, claiming she needed time to prepare for the presentation. Based on the credit card alert I'd received 30 minutes ago, she was preparing at a spa that charged $300 for whatever it is they do to make cheating wives feel better about themselves. Tyler arrived at 6:15, driving his silver BMW like he owned the road. He handed his keys to the valet with the casual arrogance of someone who'd never had to worry about money, then walked into the hotel like he was heading to his coronation. Ayla showed up 20 minutes later in a black dress that I'd never seen before, probably purchased with money from our joint account for the specific purpose of impressing her boss and his colleagues. She looked beautiful, confident, completely unaware that her world was about to collapse. I gave them 30 minutes to get settled, then walked into the hotel lobby carrying a laptop bag and wearing the kind of business casual outfit that made me invisible in a crowd of consultants and contractors. The key to not being noticed is looking like you belong, and I'd spent enough time in corporate environments to blend in perfectly. The elevator to the top floor required a key card, but hotel security is designed to keep out random troublemakers, not someone with specific knowledge and preparation. A maintenance elevator, a borrowed uniform from a cleaning service, and 5 minutes of confident walking got me exactly where I needed to be. The Morrison and Associates party was in full swing, maybe 60 people scattered around a room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Casco Bay, servers circulating with drinks and appetizers. the kind of networking event where everyone pretends to enjoy themselves while calculating how each conversation might advance their careers. I spotted Ayla near the bar, laughing at something Tyler was whispering in her ear. They were standing just a little too close, touching just a little too often, playing their dangerous game in front of a room full of people who could destroy their careers if they knew what they were seeing. The AV control booth was exactly where I expected it to be, a small room behind the main presentation area, accessible through a service corridor that most guests would never notice. The door was locked, but hotel locks are designed for convenience, not security. Inside, I found exactly what I was looking for: a professional-grade projection system with wireless connectivity and enough computing power to handle high-definition video streaming. It took me less than 10 minutes to establish a connection with my laptop and upload the files I'd prepared. Then I returned to the main room and waited. Tyler was scheduled to give a presentation at 8 o'clock, something about the agency's growth and future plans, the kind of corporate cheerleading that passes for leadership in the advertising world. As the appointed time approached, guests gathered around the presentation area while Tyler made his way to the front of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight," he began, his voice carrying the practiced confidence of someone accustomed to being the center of attention. "Morrison & Associates has had an incredible year, and we couldn't have done it without the support of our clients and the dedication of our team." He clicked his wireless presenter, expecting to see the first slide of his carefully prepared presentation. Instead, the screen filled with security camera footage of him and Ayla in my kitchen, her hands tangled in his hair while he pressed her against the counter where I eat breakfast every morning. The room went silent. Tyler frantically clicked his presenter, but the images kept coming. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, text messages between him and Ayla planning their meetings, and laughing about their respective spouses. "What the hell is this?" Tyler shouted, but his voice was barely audible over the gasps and murmurs spreading through the crowd. Ayla had gone pale, her face frozen in an expression of pure terror as she watched her private moments displayed in high definition for everyone she worked with, everyone whose respect she'd spent years earning. The final slide was a simple text message. "Tyler Rohn has been embezzling money from client accounts to fund his affair with employee Ayla Trenwick. Financial documentation has been forwarded to the appropriate authorities." Then the screen went black. I was already walking toward the elevator when the chaos erupted behind me. Tyler screaming at the AV technicians, Ayla pushing through the crowd toward the exit, guests pulling out their phones to record what would undoubtedly become the most talked-about scandal in Portland's advertising community. By the time hotel security figured out what had happened, I was sitting in my car across the street, watching through the windows as the party dissolved into accusations and damage control. My phone buzzed with a text from Chloe. "Phase 1 complete, ready for Phase 2? I typed back, "Let's finish this." The fallout began before I even got home. My phone started ringing at 9:30. Reporters who'd somehow gotten my number, neighbors who'd seen the story spreading on social media, even a few old colleagues who wanted to know if the rumors were true. I turned off the phone and sat in my kitchen, drinking a beer and waiting for Ayla to come home. The house felt different now, not just because I knew what had happened in it, but because I knew it was ending. Tomorrow, this would be my house, not our house. My kitchen, my living room, my life to rebuild however I chose. She walked in at 11:15, moving like someone in a dream. Her expensive dress was wrinkled, her carefully styled hair disheveled, her makeup smeared from crying. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in the past 2 hours. "Was it you?" she asked, standing in the doorway like she was afraid to come closer. "Was what me?" "Don't play games, Hale. The presentation, the cameras, all of it. Was it you?" I took a long sip of my beer before answering. "I installed a security system in my house. Everything else is just the natural consequence of your choices. You destroyed my career, my reputation, everything I've worked for." "No, Ayla. You did that when you decided to sleep with your married boss and lie to me about it for 4 months." She slumped against the door frame, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you pack your things and find somewhere else to live. Wilder will be in touch about the divorce proceedings." "Hale, please. We can work through this. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake, but we can't work through anything. You made your choice, and now you get to live with the consequences." She started crying then, the kind of desperate sobbing that comes from realizing you've lost everything that mattered. But I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her. That part of me had been surgically removed over the past month, replaced by something colder and more calculating. My phone rang. Wilder. "Have you seen the news?" he asked. I've been avoiding it. Morrison and Associates issued a statement an hour ago. Tyler Rohn has been terminated, effective immediately. They're conducting an internal investigation into the financial irregularities, and they've referred the matter to the district attorney's office. And Ayla? Suspended pending investigation. But given that she's romantically involved with someone who was embezzling money from the company, I'd say her career in advertising is over. After Wilder hung up, I sat in the silence of my house and tried to feel something. Satisfaction, revenge, closure. Instead, I felt empty, like I'd won a game that nobody should have to play. Ayla spent the night in the guest bedroom, the same room where she'd entertained Tyler while I slept upstairs. I could hear her crying through the walls, making phone calls to friends who probably weren't answering, trying to salvage something from the wreckage of her life. The next morning, she was gone. No note, no explanation, just empty closets and bathroom drawers, like she'd never lived there at all. She'd taken her clothes, her jewelry, her personal items, but left behind everything we'd accumulated together. Wedding photos, furniture we'd picked out, the life we'd built that had turned out to be a lie. I was drinking coffee and reading the newspaper coverage of the scandal, front page of the Portland Press-Herald, complete with photos from the party and quotes from industry insiders, when someone knocked on my door. It was Chloe Rohn, wearing jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than I'd seen her since we'd started working together. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Better than expected. You?" Tyler moved out yesterday, filed for divorce this morning. His lawyer called to discuss settlement terms, but I think he's going to be too busy with criminal defense attorneys to worry about property division. We sat in my kitchen, two people who'd been betrayed by the same man, drinking coffee and watching the news coverage of our revenge. "Any regrets?" she asked. I thought about it for a moment. "None. You?" Tyler had it coming. He spent years thinking he was smarter than everyone else, that he could manipulate people and situations without consequences. Now he gets to find out what the real world is like. And Ayla? Your wife made her choice. She could have been honest with you, could have asked for a divorce if she wasn't happy. Instead, she chose to lie and cheat and humiliate you. Actions have consequences. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, two people who'd been through hell and come out the other side with their dignity intact. "What's next for you?" I asked. "I'm thinking about going back to work. Forensic accounting, maybe white-collar crime investigation. Turns out I have a talent for uncovering financial fraud." "And personally?" She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. "I'm going to take some time to figure out who I am when I'm not married to a liar and a thief. What about you?" "Same thing, I guess. Figure out what my life looks like now that I'm not pretending to be married to someone who never really loved me." After Chloe left, I walked through my house, really looked at it for the first time in months. It was a good house, solid construction, nice neighborhood, the kind of place where someone could build a real life with the right person. Maybe someday I'd find someone worth sharing it with. Maybe I wouldn't. Either way, it would be my choice, made with full knowledge of who I was and what I wanted. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered it anyway. "Mr. Trenwick, this is Detective Morrison." "What can I do for you, Detective?" "I wanted to let you know that we've opened an investigation into Tyler Rohn's financial activities. The district attorney's office is very interested in the evidence that was presented last night." "I'm glad to hear it. There's something else. Ayla asked me to call you. She wants to know if you'd be willing to meet with her, maybe work out some kind of arrangement." I looked around my kitchen, remembering all the mornings I'd sat here eating breakfast while she lied to my face about where she'd been and who she'd been with. "Detective Morrison, please tell your cousin that we have nothing to discuss. Her lawyer can contact my lawyer if she has any legal matters to resolve." "Are you sure?" She seems pretty desperate. "I'm sure. And Detective, the next time Ayla wants something from me, she can ask for it herself instead of sending her cousin to do her dirty work." I hung up and turned off the phone. Outside, my neighbors were going about their normal routines, walking dogs, checking mail, living their lives without drama or betrayal or revenge. It looked peaceful, ordinary, like something I might want to be part of again someday. But not today. Today, I was going to sit in my house, drink my coffee, and enjoy the silence of a life that belonged entirely to me. The newspaper was full of follow-up stories about the scandal, Tyler's arrest on embezzlement charges, Morrison and Associates' damage control efforts, speculation about how long the affair had been going on, and who else might have known about it. Ayla's name was mentioned in every article, her professional reputation destroyed as thoroughly as if she'd never existed. It was exactly what I'd wanted. Complete, total, irreversible consequences for the people who'd betrayed me. So why did I feel so empty? The answer came to me as I sat in the afternoon sunlight streaming through my kitchen window. Revenge is like a fever. It consumes you while it's happening, but when it breaks, you're left weak and hollow, wondering what comes next. Tyler Rohn was facing criminal charges and financial ruin. Ayla had lost her career, her marriage, and her reputation. I'd gotten everything I'd wanted, and it had cost me everything I'd thought I wanted. But maybe that was the point. Maybe some things need to be destroyed completely before you can build something better in their place. I opened my laptop and started working on a consulting proposal for a new client. A small business that needed help with their computer systems, honest work for honest people who probably went home to spouses who actually loved them. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning, and sometimes a beginning is all you need.